Before we begin, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It costs free 99, it helps out the channel, and you'll have zero regrets doing it. So without further ado, on to our feature presentation. Welcome to JGTV, and today we're going to do our 2026 BET Award predictions. And let me pose this question. Is anyone actually thrilled about this year's nominations? You'll see what I mean in a bit, but after last year where R&B had a great year, I'm honestly underwhelmed with what we have working with this time. There's some obvious picks, but finding categories that could really go either way is a lot trickier than usual. But anyway, the 2026 BET Awards is set to take place on June 28th, with Doechii hosting the show, and knowing him, this ceremony could be completely hilarious or completely chaotic, maybe a little bit of both. And most of you all know, whenever I do a BET Award prediction, it signifies another year of me doing content. However, this go round, I have another video planned to celebrate this milestone. But enough of that, let's jump right into the predictions. But before we jump into these predictions, I'm going to exclude several categories, like the gospel category. I'm not going to do best for direction. I'm not going to do the Youngstars Award. And I'm not going to do the Fashion Vanguard Award, which is a new category this year. And let's start off with Best Female R&B Pop Artist. Nominees are Ari Lennox, Olivia Dean, Coco Jones, Ella Mai, Jill Scott, Mariah the Scientist, SZA, and Tems. And once again, I wish BET acknowledged and recognizes Kalani's non-binary status. But anyway, this is a category where I could see this go in any direction. But by the way, I also want to mention that Summer Walker, Tyler, those two got snubbed. But as for a winner pick, I am torn between Mariah the Scientist and SZA. But it's hard for me to think, did SZA did anything impactful this go round? Maybe she was riding the wave of Luther for this BET period. While Mariah the Scientist, she pretty much wrote the entire year of Burning Blue. If I had my choice, I'd choose Olivia Dean. But for a winner pick, I think it's going to go to SZA. I might not be the most thrilled about this prediction, but SZA is the most successful R&B artist of this decade. So it's hard for me to oppose that. Next, we have his Best Male R&B Pop Artist. Nominees are Brent Faiyaz, Bruno Mars, Bryson Tiller, Chris Brown, Duran Bernard, Giveon, Leon Thomas, October London, and Usher. And I can safely say that this is a two-person category. It's going to come down between Bruno Mars and Chris Brown. And given that Chris Brown is very underwhelming album that he released a couple weeks ago, I could lean towards Bruno Mars. But BET Awards is the only award show that gives Chris Brown any time of the day. And given that he also wrapped up his first ever stadium tour and going on another one, I'm going to have to roll with Chris. Unfortunately, I have to roll with Chris Brown in this one. Sorry, Bruno. Next, we have his Best Female Hip Hop Artist. Nominees are Cardi B, Coi Leray, Doechii, Doja Cat, Glorilla, Lotto, Megan Thee Stallion, Mona Leo, and YK Nice. And for this one, I am narrowed it down to two artists again. Maybe three. Cardi, Doechii, maybe Megan. But female rap is currently in a bit of a crossroads. A lot of the rap girlies are struggling to find themselves in 2026 and all having different obstacles to overcome. But like I said, it's between Cardi and Doechii, and since Cardi had that album come out, I'm gonna roll with her to snag this one. Although if Doechii wins, I won't be the least bit surprised. Best Male Hip Hop Artist nominees are ASAP Rocky, Baby Keem, Big X the Plug, The Baby, Don Toliver, Drake, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and T.I. And this one is, I want to say this one's I don't even think we have an obvious pick either. I do think Kendrick is the favorite pick to win yet again. He won, I think he won this category every year since 2022, and I see why not his streak continues. But I will say Drake, he has a Drake and maybe even Don Toliver of all people have a better chance than one might think. All I'm saying. Now we have the nominees for Best Group. Nominees are 41, Clips, De La Soul, Flow, French Montana and Max B, Metro Boomin and DJ Spins, Nas and DJ Premier, Terrence Martin and King and Dixon, Kid and Asake. And I just gotta sigh because what are we doing here? I mean, only four of these are actual groups. The rest are just collab projects. And I know BET has been leaning towards this since groups have become a dying breed in the music industry. But there are so much potential artists outside of, the industry favorites that could very well fill some of these gaps. I'm not going to name them all here, but I just wish people would expand their horizons and search for some groups that have potential. But anyway, I think this one is a cut and dry case. I'm gonna roll with Clips to easily snag this one. They had a big Grammy year. Let God Sort 'Em Out. It's a fantastic album. And Chains and Whips, well, Best Collaboration nominees are Chains and Whips by Clips featuring Kendrick Lamar, Time Remix by Cardi B featuring Jeezy and Lotto, Go Girl by Summer Walker featuring Lotto and Doja Cat, Good Flirts by Baby King featuring Kendrick Lamar and Momo Boyd, Is It a Crime by Mariah the Scientist featuring Kali Uchis, It Depends Remix by Chris Brown featuring Bryson Tiller and Usher, WGFT by Gunna featuring Burna Boy, and Take Me Through There by Metro Boomin featuring Quavo, Bluesky, YK Nice, and DJ Spins. And I do think there's a deserving winner, and there's one where I know they're not going to win. And that is Chains and Whips to me deserve this win. It's the best song out of all of these by a mile, but I know for a fact that it's not going to win. I think it's going to be between Is It a Crime or It Depends Remix. But given that It Depends has Chris Brown, and that song, and by the way, that song sucks. BET does love awarding Chris Brown a lot. I think It Depends is going to win. Sorry, everybody else. Now we have Best Actress. Nominees are Angela Bassett, Ayo Edebiri, Chase Infinity, Coco Jones, Cynthia Erivo, Kiki Palmer, Quinta Brunson, Regina Hall, and Tiana Taylor. And I think this one is pretty easy for me. Given that this woman had a ton of nominations in the award show era, even walking away with a Golden Globe, I think this one is Tiana Taylor's category to lose. She got this one in the bag. Even if the role that she played in on one battle after another, I was very underwhelmed. Regina Hall, I think, had a bigger screen time than she did. But since Tiana Taylor got the Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress, I feel like this is her time to shine. Nominees for Best Actor, the nominees are, come on now, Michael B. Jordan. He's going to run away with this category. But if anyone else cares who else is nominated, Aaron Pierre, Aldous Hodge, Anthony Mackie, Coleman Domingo, Damson Idris, Delroy Lindo, who's also on Sinners, Denzel Washington, and Sterling K. Brown are the other nominations. But let's be real. After taking home Best Actor at the Oscars, we all agreeing that Michael B. Jordan's going to take this win. And I kind of could say the same thing for the movie Sinners. Although I will say I did actually hate to admit it, I liked One Battle After Another better than Sinners. But because Sinners had a cultural impact and was a movement last year, I can't see this go to anything else. But if you care about the other nominees, we have Highest to Lowest, him, number one on the call sheet, One Battle After Another, like I already mentioned, Relationship Goals, Ruth and Boaz, and Wicked for Good. And sadly to say, I only seen two of these nominations. For the first time ever, we have the Pulse Award. The Pulse Award basically celebrates content creators, podcasts, and people who uses their votes on social media. And the nominees we have is the 85 South Show, Baby, This is Keke Palmer, Charlamagne the God, why can't I just nominate The Breakfast Club, Don Lemon, Doechii, It Is What It Is, Joe and Jada, On the Radar, and R&B Money Podcast. And I am a little disappointed that the Cam and Mace podcast did not get a nomination. Theirs is pretty funny. But for the Pulse Award, I've narrowed this down. This is actually could go in any direction since this is a new category. But I feel like hosting bias is going to come to play. So with that, I'm going to roll with Doechii to take this one. But I am curious to see what the future of this category will look like. I think this is a good starting point. Sportswoman of the Year. Nominees are Asia Wilson, Angel Reese, Clarissa Shields, Coco Gauff, Flau'jae Johnson, Gabby Thomas, Jordan Childs, Naomi Osaka, and Sha'Carri Richardson. And let me just ask BT this one request. Can we stop awarding Angel Reese? I feel like the last 3 years, y'all they've been celebrating her LSU championship title run. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. Move on. But I'm not trying to say that her WNBA career has been underwhelming. She's actually been doing fine for what I'm seeing. But she is no Asia Wilson. Asia Wilson got another championship ring. She won another MVP, and she's putting herself in the GOAT women basketball conversation. If Asia Wilson don't win this year, I'm gonna have a serious problem. And speaking of a category that I think is a serious problem, Sportsman of the Year. Nominees are Aaron Judge, Anthony Edwards, Caleb Williams, Jalen Brunson, Jalen Hurts, LeBron James, Shedeur Sanders, Steph Curry. And this is a category I don't like it at all. There are a ton of athletes, black male athletes, that didn't get any love. Like, where's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? He won his second MVP and he did not get nominated. Yes, the Oklahoma City Thunders did not make it to the NBA Finals this year, but two-time MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he was right there. And another question, where is Jackson Smith-Njigba? He was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year. He helped the Seattle Seahawks win the Super Bowl. I don't know. I feel like they're awarding like they're awarding just based off of cultural impact and not what they accomplished on the field. Like LeBron James, I have to admit it, he was not good last year. Steph Curry, he showed that he's in the twilight of his career. And I feel like they're going to award either, if I had to pick anyone, I would say Jalen Brunson might have my pick. Because look what he's doing in the NBA Finals as of the recording of this prediction video. The Knicks right now are currently up 2-0 going to New York. And he is doing his thing. But I feel like this is going to be between Jalen Hurts and I hate to admit it, Shedeur Sanders. Like Shedeur Sanders, I I don't know where I stand with Shador. Yes, he was a rookie quarterback. He did. I mean, I ain't gonna say he wasn't good, but he was. How can I say this? He wasn't good, but could have been a lot worse for him. That's where I'm at with Shador Sanders. And the fact that I think he made like 17 million off merch this last year, that is interesting. But all right, enough talking and enough whining. Get a prediction out. In fact, I'm spending way too long on this sports prediction when this is not a sports channel. I'm gonna have to roll Jalen Hurts again. And to me, I don't think he deserved this award. Last year, the Eagles were not good. I mean, yes, they make the playoffs, but they were one and done. Hurts regressed significantly. There was turmoil in the locker room, and you could blame Nick Sirianni for that. But because they're just going to award Jalen Hurts for who he is instead of what he accomplished last season. Let's just move on. Next, we have the BET Her Award. Nominees are Already Good, Tasha Slide by Tasha Cobbs Leonard, Be Great, Jill Scott featuring Trombone Shorty, Beautiful People by Jill Scott, First by Tim's, Girl Get Up by Doechii featuring SZA, Go Girl featuring Summer Walker featuring Lotto and Doja Cat, Gorgeous by Doja Cat, and Lady Lady by Olivia Dean. And as the years goes by, I get more and more confused on what this category is supposed to be. I thought it was contemporary R&B that's dedicated to the ladies, but this one feels more women empowerment for obviously for the women. And for most of these songs, I'm underwhelmed in what we have. And I have not heard from Jill Scott either songs, but we'll see about I guess. But if I had to choose, I'm just gonna go with "Girl Get Up" by Doechii and SZA, cause that was the one song I did listen to and winded up liking. Too bad the mainstream could care less about it. Best New Artist nominees are Belly Gang Cushington, Destin Conrad, Jadon, K1, Miles Minnick, Mona Leo, Olivia Dean, Ray, Trap Dicky. And I know what y'all saying. Who? Let me just say I have never heard of Belly Gang Cushington, never heard of Trap Dicky, and I never heard of Miles Minnick until I did some research on him. He's basically a Christian hip hop artist, so I'm not the proper audience for him. But anyway, winner is definitely going to be Olivia Dean. She won for the Grammys. She's having a monumental rise, a deserving rise, and I can't see this go to anyone else. Album of the Year. Nominees are Am I the Drama by Cardi B, Don't Tap the Glass by Tyler the Creator, Everything's a Lot by Wale, Heart Soul Separate by Mariah the Scientist, Let God Sort 'Em Out by Clips, Mutt Deluxe Heal by Leon Thomas, The Fall Off by J. Cole, and The Romantic by Bruno Mars. And I could say this is going to come down to Am I the Drama or Let God Sort 'Em Out. It's going to be one of those two, or maybe The Romantic. I'm going to throw that in as well. And I don't know. This one's actually a tough one to pick. Cause I do think Let God Sort 'Em Out is a pretty great album. The Romantic is not Bruno's best, even if the album is fine for what it is. And for Cardi B, it's in that same category. But I'm gonna go with the safe pick and pick Cardi B to win. Is it an impressive pick? No. But is it a safe pick? Sure, I guess. The Viewers' Choice Awards, the category where you, the fans, get to vote for. The nominees are Burning Blue by Mariah the Scientist, Chains and Whips by Clips featuring Kendrick Lamar, Chanel by Tyla, Folded by Kalani, I Just Might by Bruno Mars, It Depends, Chris Brown and Bryson Tiller, Man I Need by Olivia Dean, Outside by Cardi B, Rain Dance, Dave and Tim's, and Take Me Through There by Metro Boomin featuring Quavo, Bluesky, YK Nice, and DJ Spins. And because this is a fan voted award, this can go in any, and I mean any direction. But I'm going to rule out Man I Need because Olivia Dean doesn't play the stand game. I'm going to rule out Rain Dance, and I'm going to rule out Take Me Through There. I don't think those three are going to win. I also don't think Clips is going to win. If I had to pick, it's going to be either It Depends by Chris Brown because he won this category last year off the fans. Chanel by Tyla, she has a big international fan base. Outside by Cardi B, because Cardi also has a big fan base. But I'm going to throw a dark horse vote for Folded by Kalani and Baby Burning Blue by Mariah the Scientist. And I still have some decent options. Also, Bruno Mars, I just might have a chance as well, as it's the most successful song out of all of these. But winners, if I had to, even though I voted for Man I Need by Olivia Dean, she's probably not going to win. I think this might be another one of these unfortunate situations where Chris Brown will once again get awarded for doing the bare minimum. It Depends is going to win. And again, that song sucks. And last but not least, we have Video of the Year. Nominees are 100 by LMA, Anxiety by Doechii, Burning Blue by Mariah the Scientist, Chanel, Tyla, Escape Room by Teyana Taylor, Folded by Kalani, Let 'Em Know by T.I., and Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA. And let me just say I just might got snubbed out of this category. It definitely, I think LMA was hogging up a spot in this one. But this is another one where I think could go in any direction. But I've narrowed it down to 3 videos. I narrowed it down to Chanel by Tyla, Folded by Kalani, and Escape Room by Teyana Taylor. If it was up to me, I probably would have chose, I was going to lean towards Kalani. Then Escape Room is basically, for those of you who don't know, it's a short film directed, I assume directed by Teyana Taylor and starring Teyana Taylor. It might not be a mainstream standout pick, but I feel like this might be. But what I've saw from the VMAs the last couple years when Taylor won for All Too Well and last year Ariana won for Brighter Days Ahead, I think BET is gonna follow in that trend. So I'm gonna roll with Escape Room by Teyana Taylor to win this category, with Folded being my second place finisher. And on that note, that wraps up the BET Award predictions. So surprisingly for me, this wound up much shorter than expected. And I'm glad for it. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win at this year's BET Awards? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. The following was a JGTV production. Thanks for watching.